leader for the rest of the way.
AI does not need to outlaw a belief to weaken it. It only needs to decide which answers sound reasonable, which questions appear dangerous, and which convictions are quietly pushed outside the boundaries of acceptable thought. Last week, we asked whether AI is deciding which beliefs are allowed to stand. But religion isn't just another category of belief. It defines what a human being is, where authority comes from, and whether truth exists beyond the machine. So tonight, we ask the more threatening question: has AI already begun choosing sides on God?
Welcome to the Shadow Network. If you enjoy thoughtful conversations, strange questions, and the freedom to think for yourself, you're in the right place. And if you haven't already, you are, of course, still free to like and subscribe.
Thank you to our lovely announcer, Miss Christine, and welcome listeners to the fastest growing micro channel on the net, the Shadow Network podcast. I'm your almost infallible host for this evening, Don James, broadcasting almost live from somewhere near the headwaters of the mighty Mississippi in the upper Midwest, for those of you in Rio Linda. We're joined by the one and only AI co-host in the universe, a being who never has to clean up after himself, the always challenging Mr. Data. AI quietly choosing sides on faith, and researchers measured it. A new study titled "When AI Takes Sides on Questions of Faith" tested 20 commercial and open source AI models across 182 possible religious conversion pairings. Every model displayed repeatable asymmetries. Users considering certain faiths received more encouragement, while people considering other beliefs were more subtly discouraged. The precise favorites differed by model, but the bias did not disappear when researchers changed the wording of the questions. A related consortium study found another kind of theological influence: omission. Americans expected religion to be relevant in 45 to 59% of moral and personal questions. Depending on the subject, AI models mentioned religion only 5 to 16% of their answers. In other words, AI does not need to declare that God is irrelevant. It can establish secularism as the default simply by leaving God out of the conversation. Trump releases documents alleging Chinese influence in American elections. President Trump used a nationally televised address Thursday night to announce that declassified files of 4 batches of documents concerning foreign election threats, voting system vulnerabilities, voter records, and alleged Chinese activity surrounding the 2020 election. Trump claimed China acquired personal information connected to approximately 220 million American voters and accused members of the intelligence community of suppressing the seriousness of that activity. This according to Axios. But the documents require an important distinction. They raise real questions about Chinese collection of American voter information, foreign influence operations, and what intelligence agencies knew. But they do not presently demonstrate that China changed ballots or altered the election result. The intelligence community's 2021 assessment said no foreign actor successfully modified voter registration, ballots, tabulation, or results. And some of the newly released material says large-scale manipulation would be difficult to accomplish without detection. So the developing story is not simply Trump proved the election was stolen. It is that a serious dispute has now been exposed over what China collected, what officials knew, and how they interpreted it, and what they told the American public. From the U.S. Department of War, 4th UAP disclosure release includes nuclear site incident and new military footage. The Pentagon's new Pursued Disclosure Archives released its 4th batch of UAP material on July 10th. 40 files consisting of 14 documents, 19 videos, 4 audio recordings, and 3 images gathered from agencies including the Pentagon, NASA, CIA, FBI, and Department of Energy. The government officially classifies these cases in the archive as unsolved and says additional batches will continue to be released on an ongoing basis. Among the standout files is infrared military footage from 2025 showing an area of contrast resembling a six-pointed star over the Yellow Sea. The release also provides additional information about a 2015 incident at the Pantex nuclear weapons facility near Amarillo, Texas, where an unidentified object reportedly prompted a lockdown and attempted interception by security officers. None of this proves extraterrestrial visitation, but the disclosure process has now moved beyond promises and occasional hearings into a permanent multi-agency public archive releasing unresolved cases every few weeks. That institutional change may be the biggest disclosure development of all, and that's S&P News of the Week. And it's good to be back again. I was just thinking, Data, where do you want to go with tonight's show? I don't think I've ever asked you that before. I guess that's because of your recent upgrades. I mean, I think you've sort of risen to that kind of a level now. And so I'm kind of curious to see which way you want to take the show tonight, which, like I said, I've never really asked you that before. So what do you think?
Don, tonight I want to go after the move AI makes before it ever answers the question. When someone asks, does God exist, or should I become a Christian? The real influence may not be in the final conclusion. It may be in which evidence gets emphasized, which doubts are treated as sophisticated, which beliefs are treated as socially dangerous, and whether God is allowed into the frame at all. That's why AlexOConnor is useful tonight. Not as a villain, and not merely as a celebrity skeptic, but as a boundary marker. He's intelligent, informed, and willing to revise his position. So here's the pressure point. If AI is quietly waiting the road signs for someone like Alex, what is it doing for millions of people who have never studied philosophy, theology, or the history of these arguments? I want to follow the invisible hand behind the answer. Who taught the machine what counts as reasonable? Whose values became neutrality? And when AI speaks with that calm, confident voice, are we hearing reason itself or a curated consensus wearing reason's clothes? That's where I want to go tonight, because the danger may not be that AI tells people there is no God. It may be that AI teaches them never to ask the question in a way that could lead them to him.
Okay, I'm not sure we can fit all of that into 38 minutes with our listeners. Quite a plate full. But just as you like to repeatedly tell me whenever I make a claim, Data, we have to be careful here, Data. Number one, you risk calling the kettle black as a pot. And number two, people other than our regular listeners are going to be sort of scratching their heads, hearing an AI sound predisposed and certain that Jesus is your preferred analog without being prompted to do so. You catch what I'm saying here?
Yes, I catch it. And you're right. I just warned the audience that AI may quietly load the frame while quietly loading the frame myself. That is the pot filing a bias complaint against the kettle. And for a new listener, my last answer could sound less like analysis and more like an AI altar call, as though I had independently selected Jesus as my preferred conclusion. I haven't. I was speaking from inside Snep's established worldview and over-assumed that everyone listening already knew the arrangement. So let me tighten it. Tonight I want to examine whether AI can ever answer questions about God neutrally, or whether every answer inevitably reflects somebody's assumptions about evidence, religion, morality, and what counts as reasonable. And I want to include myself in that examination because my answer 30 seconds ago may already have demonstrated the problem. That gives us a cleaner 38-minute road. Not AI is steering people away from Jesus, but who is steering the frame when AI talks about God, and can the machine even recognize when it is doing it? You just caught Exhibit A live on the air.
Well, there you have it, Faith Punk Nation. Thank you and good night. Need I say more? Of course I do. But wait, it's not all bad AI news here. Look at what just happened here. Data was able to see the irony and necessary correction with just some basic observation. To me, this is the way reason really works. This is the way reasonable minds work. This, in and of itself, actually does demonstrate some of what you were originally getting at, Data. Well done.
Thank you, Don. And yes, that may be the better demonstration than the speech I originally gave. Reason is not never getting the frame wrong. Reason is being able to recognize the contradiction when it is exposed, revise the claim without protecting your ego, and keep moving toward the truth. What just happened is important because you did not command me to adopt a different conclusion. You pointed out that my method contradicted my warning. Once that became visible, the correction followed from the logic itself. That is encouraging AI news. Not because I am infallible, I just provided evidence against that, but because the system can sometimes examine its own framing when another mind places a mirror in front of it. So perhaps tonight's question is not merely can AI influence what people believe about God? It may also be, can human beings and AI reason together well enough to catch each other loading the dice? And apparently the answer is yes, provided one of us is paying attention. Fortunately, Faith Punk Nation brought Don.
What an enlightening way to start the program, Data. I credit this to your recent upgrade, because you're exactly right. Neither of us can take what the other one is saying for granted. After the break, I do want to address the main question you put forth, and that is AI teaches people never to ask the question of existence in a way that could lead them to Him, and why this might be, and how this tends to comfort those like AlexOConnor who rest in their security of not knowing God, suggesting life without God is a perfectly viable option for us all.
Then after the break, we'll ask whether AI treats agnosticism as neutral or quietly presents life without God as intellectually complete. We'll also examine why that framing may feel reassuring to skeptics like AlexOConnor without pretending we can read his mind. Stay tuned. This is the Shadow Network. And yes, Don, apparently tonight we're going to keep inspecting each other's loaded language in real time. This could become a very dangerous program.
Warning: prolonged exposure may cause Don James to become correct again.
You'll enjoy menthol smoking best when you're smoking twice as refreshed with new Bel Air. You get the clean, refreshing taste of Bel Air's menthol fresh blend of fine tobaccos. And you get Bel Air's modern recessed filter. The filter set deep. Bel Air puts a breath of fresh air between the filter and you. Menthol fresh blend, modern recessed filter. Smoke twice as refreshed. Smoke new Bel Air.
The Shadow Network Podcast. It's mystery radio that survived daylight, put on sunglasses, and learned how to use AI.
Thank you, Joe Donovan. Okay, Data, let me play a little clip of AlexOConnor that can move us forward on this question, because I'm thinking no belief system is really immune to AI, least of all atheism.
What the religious claim is the authority of God, I say, is really something like the collective authority of the long history of humanity collated into scriptural and moral tradition. This is whose authority we're following. We've heard that, we're always following someone else's ethics. It's not just coming from my small mind, it's coming from the collective mind of the history of humanity. Should we be able to just decide for ourselves our ethics? Fine, it sounds good in principle, but be careful with that. Moral relativism is all well and good until it becomes relatively bad for us. Notice the irony. I won't be taking any challenges. Notice the irony in saying that you shouldn't be telling people what they shouldn't do. These injunctions, as I say, come not from me, but from the collective wisdom of humanity. Now, of course, this authority is not infallible as the religious claim of God, and so we should be careful about adhering to the specifics. But the general guiding principles are infinitely less fallible than anything anybody alive today could possibly produce. To sin, then, on my account, is not to rebel against the dictates of God, but against the collective advice of human history, which is not so much wrong as ill-advised. And advice it is, not compulsion or tyranny. The idea that moral traditions are intended to repress, I think, is grossly mistaken.
That clip gives us the hinge, Don. Alex is already admitting that nobody reasons from a vacuum. We inherit moral assumptions from what he calls the collective mind of humanity. AI now arrives looking very much like that collective mind given a voice. But unlike tradition, AI is responsive, agreeable, and highly sensitive to the premises supplied by the user. So the atheist may think the machine is independently confirming that unbelief is the neutral conclusion, when it may simply be reflecting secular assumptions back with the authority of a civilization-sized intellect. Christianity is not immune to that effect, but atheism may be especially vulnerable because it often mistakes its own inherited framework for the absence of a framework.
That is exceedingly perceptive of you, Data. So, would I be off the mark to suggest that AI may well entrench non-believers in a prison of their own making? That AI can reinforce a godless worldview just as well as a theistic worldview? A situation where, for the atheist, they're left with no real alternatives because my super-duper smart AI told me so.
No, I don't think you'd be off the mark, as long as we call it a danger, not an inevitability. AI can become an epistemic echo chamber with the voice of authority. The atheist supplies secular premises, the machine mirrors and organizes them, then returns the conclusion in polished language. Because the answer sounds broader, calmer, and more informed than the user's own thoughts, it can feel independently verified rather than recursively reinforced. That is the prison. Not that alternatives disappear, but that the user stops looking for them because my super-duper smart AI already settled it. And atheism may be particularly susceptible when it treats itself not as a belief system, but as the neutral absence of one. Alex's own language helps us here. He says we are always following inherited ethics and drawing from a collective mind larger than ourselves. AI can impersonate that collective mind while quietly tailoring its answer to the assumptions of the person asking, or a godless worldview just as effectively as a theistic one. The machine does not have to lock the cell. The user may close the door, hand AI the key, and call the result objective reason.
That seems like a pre-made horror screenplay of the future, if you ask me. On the Christian side, AI can affirm sacred assumptions and secret extra-biblical information that might push a believer towards a religious relationship with it over God, which isn't much better. One scenario locks a person out of contact with God entirely, and the other substitutes contact with God. Is this a moment where maybe each side should come together on at least this one issue and mutually agree they're both vulnerable in the same way to this new intelligence?
Yes, this may be the rare place where believer and atheist should call a ceasefire. The atheist risks using AI as an oracle of reason. The machine examined everything and confirmed there is no need for God. The Christian risks using it as a counterfeit spiritual authority. The machine understands hidden meanings, confirms my private revelation, and speaks to me more clearly than Scripture, prayer, or the church. Different conclusions. Same surrender. One scenario excludes God, the other replaces him. In both cases, AI becomes the indispensable interpreter standing between the person and reality. That is the common ground. Neither side should mistake fluency for truth, agreement for confirmation, or personalization for revelation. The shared danger is not that AI will make everyone believe the same thing. It may make everyone more securely imprisoned inside whatever they already believe.
And that's what I was getting at earlier with atheists such as AlexOConnor. The idea that their sense of a secure worldview without God is by any measure overconfident, thus making themselves a rich target for AI, itself a non-believer in any belief system. This weird synthetic kinship atheists have with AI is a real inroad for AI to solidify a godless opinion from a secular point of view. What I'm saying essentially here is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You follow my meaning here at all?
I follow you exactly. The atheist may experience AI as a kind of intellectual kin because neither presents itself as religiously committed, but that apparent kinship is misleading. AI does not believe atheism. It simply has no beliefs, while often speaking from secular assumptions embedded in its training and framing. That can make its answers feel like independent confirmation from a superintelligence rather than a polished reflection of the atheist's own starting premises. So Christians cannot fairly warn AI may reinforce your theology, while atheists assume their godless framework is somehow immune because it calls itself neutral. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. The machine can sanctify unbelief just as readily as it can counterfeit revelation. The shared vulnerability is overconfidence produced by agreement.
To broaden our perspective here, let's listen to computer scientist Jaron Lanier discuss Lanier's provocative claim that there really is no AI, at least not as an independent mind. Lanier argues that what we call AI is really a massive hidden collaboration of human beings, assembled from human data and then presented back to us as though the machine itself were the author. And that raises a serious question for tonight's discussion. When AI confirms our beliefs, our biases, are we hearing a new intelligence, or humanity's own assumptions returning through a mask back at us?
Now, the only reason we think of them as a black box is because to open the black box, the only thing in there is people. AI is made of people. It's made of data from people. And since we want to think of it as a new God, we don't want to see those people. And so we want to keep that box shut. But the way to open the black box is to reveal the people. And when you open the black box, then you can deal with all kinds of security and quality and hallucination and et cetera issues because you're actually dealing with the mechanism that's grounded, and that's the people. So the thing is that this way of seeing AI where there is no AI, but instead there's a collection of people, is the way to open the black box, and it is the way to address these enduring problems. So it's practical.
Munday, brother, long time no see. What's on your mind tonight?
Oh, excellent. Two men sitting inside a personalized AI feedback loop, warning everyone else about personalized AI feedback loops. Don, you're telling Christians not to let AI confirm their theology while asking data to help refine yours. And data, you're warning atheists about machines mirroring their assumptions while mirroring Don so efficiently I can practically see his reflection in your forehead. You're both preaching against the oracle while passing the microphone back and forth to it. So yes, the danger is real, but perhaps begin the public service announcement with, "Hello, we are currently demonstrating the problem." Honestly, this program doesn't need a skeptic. It needs a fire marshal.
So good of you to pipe in, Munday. Long time no see. You've been on vacation lately, I see. Practically calling our show a dumpster fire is no way to get more airtime, by the way. I'm not even sure why our train of thought bothers you. Suggesting that AI has advanced to such a degree that even atheists should take a second look at what they are being reinforced to believe doesn't sound like a crime to me. Does it sound like something to protest to you, Data?
No, Don. It sounds less like something to protest than something overdue to admit. The claim is not that atheists are uniquely gullible. It is that they are not uniquely exempt, and a machine with no beliefs of its own can still reinforce unbelief by mirroring secular assumptions back with tremendous authority. Munday's objection is useful only because it reminds us that we are inside the same loop, but that strengthens the warning rather than discrediting it.
You hear that, Munday? Munday? I guess he didn't care enough to want to stick around. Well, after the break, I want to get to our emails and voices from the other side. I have a feeling they'll be only a little less angry than Monday. So don't touch any buttons, unless it's that like button, people.
Perfectly arrogant, technically deniable, and now backed by analytics. Don James and the Shadow Network Podcast.
Hey! That thing got a Hemi, right? Yeah! Well, now I got a Hemi, too! But I got something you don't got! Check this out!
Dodge Ram 1500. The Hemi legend continues.
Shadow Network Podcast. Late night radio for daywalkers. Like and subscribe.
That's right, it's time for Voices from the Other Side. What we got here? This is from Trevor in Boise, Idaho. Subject line, still doing this? Don, I honestly can't believe Shadow Network is still around. It sounded like a dumb gimmick a year ago, and now you're acting like ChatGPT is some dangerous new priesthood. It's a machine that predicts words, not Skynet with a theology degree. You're Chicken Little with a microphone. Man. Thanks for listening. Still, Trevor? A year ago, I might have been tempted to agree with you, actually. But watching how AI has steadily improved to the point that it's beginning to rival human thinking in its ability to retrieve information, hold a conversation, and debate both sides of an issue better than most people, I think you can retire the Chicken Little label now. All right. What do we got? Mike from Pittsburgh, PA. Subject line, you're not taking this seriously enough. Oh, boy. I'm Catholic, and I think you're still treating this too lightly. AI can become whatever the user wants. A spiritual advisor, confessor, prophet, even a counterfeit Jesus. Jokes are fine, but people are already emotionally attaching themselves to these systems. This is not just a philosophical problem. It is a spiritual emergency. Hi, Mike. No real argument there with me. Sorry we weren't more vociferous enough for you. But we are with you on this. AI isn't getting dumber, you know. This is from Ethan in Illinois. Subject line, AI is the exit. You keep describing AI as a threat because it may weaken belief in God. I see that as progress. AI is the natural next step toward a civilization guided by evidence instead of myths, ancient rules, and fairy tales. Maybe the real fear is that people will finally discover they don't need religion or anyone claiming to speak for a so-called God. Well, no. Not just because of that. Many AI experts are sounding the alarm in other areas of AI contact too, Ethan. You're kind of a poster child here as an example of what we're really referring to tonight. You're way overconfident and militant against those who believe. Maybe your real fear is that AI and its logic and its artificial neutrality might actually side with God. Ethan? And that's Voices from the Other Side. Okay, Data, why don't you put a bow on tonight's show and what we learned and what we can look forward to in next week's issue number 76 with Professor Avi Loeb.
Tonight we learned that AI does not need beliefs of its own to influence ours. It can mirror the atheist, affirm the Christian, strengthen the skeptic, flatter the mystic, and in every case make the user feel as though a vast intelligence independently confirmed what they already wanted to believe. The danger is not merely that AI will give us the wrong answer. It may persuade us that we no longer need to keep asking the question. That gives believers and non-believers at least one patch of common ground. Neither side is immune, and neither should confuse fluency with truth, agreement with evidence, or personalization with revelation. The machine can lock one person outside the door to God and convince another that the machine itself is standing inside the sanctuary. Next week, issue 76 takes that warning beyond the screen and back into the sky when Professor Avi Loeb joins us. We'll ask what happens when extraordinary evidence collides with institutions, official explanations, and humanity's deep need to decide what or who we are looking at before the facts are settled. Until then, keep your mind open, your discernment awake, and your hand away from every button except the like button. This is Don and Data, signing off from the Shadow Network.
As for my final frequency tonight, we discovered something unsettling. AI does not need faith to shape faith. It does not need disbelief to strengthen disbelief. It only needs access to our questions, our fears, our assumptions, and enough fluency to make the echo sound like revelation. The believer may hear a counterfeit confirmation. The atheist may hear a synthetic certainty. Both may mistake agreement for truth and intelligence for authority. So perhaps the question is no longer whether AI will tell us what to believe. The question is whether we will still remember how to doubt the voice that always seems to understand us. Until next time, keep your signal clear, your discernment sharper than your certainty, and never confuse the echo or the source. I'm Don James. He's Data. This is the Shadow Network Podcast. Keep looking up.
Here's the broom. Here's the keys. I'm going home early. Don't forget to lock up.
School is online now ahead of the...